Kyle, it's always great to talk to you. A question: did you guys run out of coffee in the war room because the draft was so long? Did you guys make it the coffee?
No, we never run out of coffee here. That's the one thing we can do very well day in and day out is coffee supply is always flush. So we were good.
Good. Because it did drag on a wee bit, just a tiny bit. Did you expect it to drag on as long as it dragged on?
I think that once we got to the second round there and it was, and just the timing of every team having to announce their pick from their home center, from round 2, 3, and 4, I think everyone saw that. If we continue to do that, it was really going to be a slow day and a long day. And so once we saw that, we just kind of said we might be here till 9 or 10 or whatever it takes, and that's great. It's a special moment for the kids to see their name called and all that. But then after the fourth round, they went to Bill Daly announcing them, and which I think sped it up quite a bit.
This is The Lead, brought to you by the new season of Family Feud Canada on CBC and CBC Gem. Kyle Dubas, kind enough to join us. I know the draft is a lot of hard work, and in a compressed schedule with free agency coming tomorrow, it's even tougher. But what did you like most about your draft?
I think that the work that our scouts did, during the season, so from last August to March, John Lilly, our director of amateur scouting, and he does a great job getting the group organized and following a real set strategy of how we want to identify players and how we want to work on building our draft board out. And he does a great job with that. And then once the pandemic hit and leagues started to get shut down in March, he did a great job in pivoting the staff from, the usual grind of scouting. So flying to different places or drive different places and trying to catch all the players, to right away using the resources we had on the video and technology side to sort of assign scouts ways that they could get a good read on players and build that out. And then subsequently, also kind of push some of our scouts to get outside their comfort zone a lot and use technology more to supplement their analysis. And I was really proud of the job that he did and the work that our scouts did to adapt to the circumstances and be able to build out our board and really in a much more thorough way because of the extra 4 months or 3.5 months that we had than we normally do. So I thought that was a real positive from the draft.
Cool. Leafs GM Kyle Dubas here on Tim and Sid. Considering the rivalry, notwithstanding their current state, but the long-standing rivalry with the Sens, when you saw Alex Trebek, did you say to yourself, we had to pull out Drake or something? Was there some hindsight in the room? Was there a little pissed offness at the fact the Sens came out and from an entertainment standpoint kind of stole the show?
I don't know how you would match Alex Trebek. He's, I don't know who we could have pulled out that would match that. I know that maybe that wasn't for everybody, but I thought it was great. And as a big Jeopardy fan, that was really cool to see. And it seemed like the player they selected, his family really enjoyed it, made it all the more memorable. They seem to have an Oktoberfest thing going there in Germany when they picked him. And I think Alex just added to the whole celebration. So I thought that was a great moment and great work by the Senators to make that happen. That was awesome.
Oh, credit for the Sens. Nice.
No doubt. All right, Kyle, Tim and I, we like to filter what the fans are kind of saying here as best we can. I know you're aware of it. The biggest question I have for you that I'm hearing from them about the last few days, and to debate who won and who lost a draft, I don't care who you're, unless you're the NFL or the first 10 picks of the NBA draft, I think it's a ridiculous exercise. So I'm not going to do that here or litigate that here. But Rodion Amirov at 15, the one question I'm seeing the most is, why with Caden Gooley available going to the Habs right after you? Why with Braden Schneider eventually going to the Rangers, considering the defensive needs? The biggest question I'm hearing is, in that moment, why did you as an organization not think the other two were more of a fit?
Well, I think I totally understand why our fans think that way, or any fans think that way. The reality is that when we're picking now, we drafted 2 defensemen in the first round in 2017, Timothy Liljegren, and in 2018, Rasmus Sandin. And they just now in 2020 Sandy made his debut. That would be considered a relatively quick ascension to the roster, making the team out of camp. And Liljegren made his debut in 2020 in January. And so even if we would have drafted those players, sure, maybe people would have said, great, they've addressed the need on D, but it wouldn't really be addressing it right now, because those players, I mean, I've watched those players, and if they can make their respective teams out of camp, that's great for them and they will have earned it. But I don't think that it's fair to assume that a player drafted at 17 or 18 years old is going to be able to address a need at the top end of an NHL defense. And it just rarely happens. So though I understand it, I think when drafting, people would like you to address the needs you have right now in the long run. We sort of, going back and forecasting out to 2018, sort of knew that was coming, and we drafted 2D in the first round previously. So if it were like the NFL or NBA, like you alluded to, Sid, where where the players are coming in right away and making an impact right away, particularly the NFL, I could see that. If we didn't have a quarterback and we're sitting there at 15 and a great quarterback is available and we pass it up, the fans are going to revolt. But in hockey, where the lag time is a little bit greater between draft and actual playing, and the fact that we do like our defense prospect pipeline, and it's just that the timeline may not match up with our needs specifically right now, I don't think that's a reason to go off your board to just calm the fans or the media, unfortunately.
Kyle Dubas joining us here on Tim and Sid. I never want to be the guy that says something on air and then somebody from the team that I said it about comes on and I don't offer the same criticism. One of the things I said yesterday was that we heard you say, quote, we would like to be incredibly hard to play against. It's a priority of ours. And then you had a draft where you selected no one taller than 6'1" and just one guy heavier than 177 pounds. Like, I know when you said we want to be hard to play against, you specifically mentioned free agency and trades. So is it safe to say that truculent mindset didn't carry over to the draft?
I would say that in the draft, all of the players that we pick, one of the major areas that we focus on is their competitiveness or their toughness. And it may not be in their height or weight or their penalty minutes or anything of that nature. But the one thing that we focus on is on how hard they compete and how hard they are to play against. And players at 17 or 18, and especially one of the players we drafted was born right on the drop dead date of when you could possibly be in the draft, is September 15th. And I think the last time he was weighed, he was 145 pounds. And now he weighs quite a bit more, obviously, as he goes through the usual maturation at that age. But we look at that, and it's a key important factor for us. I think the same thing goes back for the need on D and addressing your current roster needs in the draft. It's really hard to project that out to happening. So I would say that the players that we drafted now, by the time they reach their physical peak and they've continued to get stronger and bigger, as they all will inevitably as they go from 18 to 20 to 25, they will add to that way that we want to play in the long run, and that we need to start playing with at a more consistent rate now. It's just not feasible, I think, to be, if we wanted to go into the draft and just get bigger, we start drafting players that aren't as good, and then we don't have as many NHL players to choose from internally. And so our focus on addressing those needs of being hard to play against will have to come in trade and free agency. And when it comes to scouting and drafting, we have to keep our focus on drafting as many players as possible that we feel can turn into good NHL players.
Right. And that's fair. And listen, I'm not going to act like I watched all of Axel Rundell's tape and know and know.
I did. He was excellent, Tim. He was fantastic. A good pick by Kyle. Good pick.
I saw what his compete level is. So then if Brendan Shanahan was available in this draft or the equivalent, you would have drafted him.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, that would be a good pick if we drafted a Hall of Famer at 15th overall. That would be great. And I think that, whether it's for whatever reason, I think, we watch Rodion play. I mean, he is a competitive guy. I know that some have termed it as maybe not being that way, but that's one of the things we liked about him was his reliability all throughout the rink, and especially when he's playing against his own peers, how hard he plays, and he's first on the puck and wins pucks and back checks and strip pucks, and then now he's figured out how to play and early this year against men. So. He's not, he's just over 6'1", 180 pounds. He's got a lot of room to grow on his frame. But if we had a good player that had all those attributes there, we would have definitely picked him.
Kyle Dubas, GM of the Leafs, here on Tim and Sid. I have no idea what this is going to look like, Kyle. I don't know if you do starting tomorrow at noon, because no one's really done this before like this. So I'll leave the free agency questions to the side for now and just talk about. I want to ask you about Frederik Andersen. Earlier this week, you did a lot of media recently, but somebody brought up Frederik Andersen, and I apologize ahead of time if I was reading you incorrectly, Kyle. But you seemed a little annoyed that the public talk with Frederik had gotten to the point where it had. A, did I read that correctly? And B, why do you think it's gotten to the point where it was with Frederik and his deal? And has that hurt your relationship with Fred a little bit?
Well, so if I came off as annoyed, it wasn't my intention. The question was just regarding him and his status and the amount of speculation regarding Fred. And all I really wanted to say was, yes, I was aware of it. I also am aware now of where it came from, and that's fine. I understand that what comes with this territory is that there's a lot of talk about the team, and there's a lot of interest in the team, and especially when it's a competitive place, like in the media or in different places, some of it is bang on, and some of it is a little bit off, and I understand that those things happen. But all I wanted to say was I knew where it had started and came from. And am aware of that, and I understand that it's not a big deal. And rather than snipe back in the media at it or shut it down that way, I had just addressed it directly with Fred. Here's what's happening. Here are the calls that we're getting. Here's where you stand with me and with our club. And I just think that's always the best way to address it. And rather than try to dance around the question the other day and add more fuel to the fire, I just thought it was good for people to know the way things were with Fred and his status with us.
It's sorry, Timmy. I just wanted to quickly follow. It's no secret if you pared down some of your money in a lot of areas, you'd probably be better off going forward here. And Fred's at 5. It's not the craziest deal, but you might be able to do better. How many calls are you getting?
On
Fred. On Fred.
Fred. Oh, I think so I don't want to get into a back and forth. I don't know whether it's feasible to replace Fred for those same dollars. I mean, as if you look at him in the 4 years he's been here, I think it's unequivocal that despite the fact, we haven't as a team had as much playoff success as we wanted, but Fred has been great for us in the regular season. He's been great for us in going back to each of the Boston series and the series here against Columbus. Fred's played very, very well. He's been one of the goalies in the league that's been able to maintain his statistics from the regular season to the playoffs are almost identical throughout his career. And I thought, whatever he had this year, a 936 or between 936 and 940 in the playoffs. So I don't know that we would be able to replace Fred for the 5. So we're obviously very happy with that and happy with Fred. And I think as a credit to Fred, we do get a lot of calls on him, I think, because people see value in him at that AAV. So that said, we want to be in the business of when we have guys like that, keeping them here and continuing to put ourselves in a situation where it's not all coming down to all on Fred's shoulders every single year in a do or die game. And I think that starts with our mindset far before that.
I don't want to get into semantics, but when you say tough to play against, is that different in your mind than toughness? I kind of, the way that I always view toughness, Tim, is, if there's a loose puck there, are you going to be the first guy to get it? If, when you make a mistake, are you able to bounce back right away and stick with your game? If there's a battle for position, are you going to be the one to win it? And if there's a guy right there with the puck, if there's a player right in front of you and you can finish your check and win the puck back and make an impact that way, that's great. And I think that's what I view. I know some people may view everyone, toughness is such a subjective term. You may view it as fighting, others may view it as the way I just turned it. I would add blocking shots and defending your teammates to my definition as well. But that's what I mean by that. I think it's also, toughness to me is a tenacity by which you approach each day and that you're able to maintain that day in and day out. That to me is tough. Somebody that through the ebbs and flows of a season or
through a year, is able to maintain their focus and maintain their concentration and their commitment to the team each day. Like that to me is shows toughness as well. And I know that people may scoff at that, say, geez, these guys are paid a lot to do their jobs, and that should just happen naturally. But it's like anybody in any position, regardless of how much you make, you're going to have days when you don't feel as great going into whatever it is you do each day. And the people I have the most respect for in any line of work are the ones that every day approach it the same way, with the same vigor and same mentality. And so that's really how we view it. We want those players to be able to be extremely good defensively and be able to pressure the puck up the ice, force the other team into turnovers, and do so physically. And that's really what we're looking for.
And I understand that, and I understand the differences in toughness. The one thing I'll just follow up with is every time I've had you on, or Brendan Shanahan on, or Sheldon Keefe, or even Mike Babcock on, I've asked about this team toughness, and I watched how Tampa went about adding what people called team toughness to their skill, and they win the cup. So has your opinion on what you just gave me as toughness changed since you started this job?
I think that not really. And I've always sort of maintained that I know people may have a different view of it, Tim, but what I've always thought, and I think like when we added Muzzin, I think Muzzin is a tough person and a tough player. Like he's not a fighter, but he plays incredibly tough. He plays hard. He plays physical. He does all the small, tough things that matter. We added Clifford. I think Clifford is a tough player. I mean, he can impose himself physically. He has a presence to him. And so those are the moves that we've made in terms of adding to the NHL roster since I've been in this position that we did to try to aim to address that exact need, and that we'll be continuing to address now. I think everybody wants to envision themselves as tough. I think in Tampa's case, they went through last offseason. They really moved JT Miller, and then they added Maroon and Shattenkirk. And then in the season addressed it with Julian did a great job with the two trades that he made near the trade deadline. I think that for me, the one thing that I take out of Tampa, and I think everyone has asked us about this of late, whether it's because we're in the same division or very highly skilled young core, or the fact that we had the disappointment against Columbus and they faced the same thing a year earlier. I think we're very far apart from where Tampa is, because they've been at it for a decade and had gone to a Stanley Cup final and a number of conference finals, and they'd had so many disappointments. And I think what I saw from them was that their top players had a tougher mindset about them going into this year. They had learned, and I thought it was remarkable the way that we talk about all the players on the periphery of it that were great additions by Julian and by John Cooper and the job that they did. But their top players, and this is including the fact that their captain played a couple of shifts inside the entire time in the bubble. I just thought their best players were excellent from day one. They had a kind of choppy start to the season, and then they were great from that point on in terms of their production, number one, which is what in the end fuels it. But the way in which they went about producing, and their focus and determination and mindset every day, and the way that they played, I thought that for us was one of the big things we could learn from them. I know everyone wants you to follow the same path or style or the same type of moves, but number one thing we could learn from them was just their mindset they had, that they've been at this a long time and they were not going to be denied this year.
Kyle, and again, to people at home who might not be aware, I don't know if there was a GM that did more press than you did over the last 10 days, and you still jumped on with us. So that sounds like a man who knows exactly how much press he's done over the last 10 days. Yes, good answer, Kyle. Good answer. But yet you still, my main point was you still jumped on with us, and we always appreciate it. Best of luck over the next how many days in this unique journey, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thanks for the conversation, guys. Talk to you soon.